They say the quietest person in the room is often the one you should fear the most. Justin Barrett thought his wife Madeline was nothing more than a plain, obedient accessory, a placeholder until someone better came along. He humiliated her at New York's most prestigious gala, forcing her to her knees to wipe champagne off his mistress's shoes, while the elite watched and laughed. He thought he held all the cards. He didn't know that the woman trembling at his feet wasn't just a housewife. She was the estranged heir to a European dynasty powerful enough to buy his entire existence before breakfast. And when her father finally stepped out of the shadows, Justin learned the hard way: you don't kick a sleeping dragon. The air inside the grand ballroom of the Pierre Hotel tasted of expensive perfume, stale ambition, and cold champagne. It was the annual Voorhees Gala, the single most important night for New York's logistics and shipping tycoons, and Justin Barrett was sweating through his bespoke Brioni tuxedo. Justin was a handsome man in the way a shark is handsome, sleek, predatory, and devoid of warmth. At 38, he was the CEO of Barrett Logistics, a company that had grown aggressively over the last 5 years. But aggressive growth required capital, and tonight was about securing the favor of the old money investors who viewed him as new, loud, and risky. He gripped the arm of his wife Madeline tight enough to bruise. "Stop slouching," Justin hissed, a smile plastered on his face for the benefit of a passing senator. "You look like a wilting cabbage. Stand up straight. And for God's sake, hide that clutch. It looks like something you bought at a flea market." Madeline Barrett adjusted her posture, her eyes fixed on the marble floor. She was 34, but looked younger, possessing a delicate, ethereal beauty that seemed to annoy her husband more than captivate him. She wore a simple floor-length gown of midnight blue silk. It had no sequins, no plunging neckline, and no designer logo screaming for attention. To Justin, she looked invisible. To a trained eye, the dress was a vintage masterpiece, hand-stitched in a Parisian atelier in the 1950s. But Justin didn't have a trained eye. He only had an expensive one. "I'm sorry, Justin," Madeline whispered, her voice soft and melodic. My feet hurt." "Your feet hurt." Justin let out a dry, mocking chuckle, leaning in close to her ear. "Do you have any idea how much this table cost? Do you know who is sitting 3 tables away? The Vice President of Sovereign Bank. If I land this deal, we enter the Fortune 500. If I don't, we're stagnant. So I don't care if your feet are bleeding, Madeline. You will smile, you will nod, and you will not embarrass me." Madeline nodded, biting her lip. "Yes, Justin." This had been their dynamic for 7 years. When they met, Justin was a struggling manager at a failing shipping firm, and Madeline was a quiet art history student, volunteering at a library. She had funded his first startup with an inheritance she claimed was from a grandmother. He had taken the money, built his empire, and somewhere along the way decided that the quiet girl who made him soup when he was sick was no longer fitting for the titan of industry he had become. "Look," Justin said, his tone shifting from irritation to slimy admiration. "Now that is how a woman should look." Madeline didn't need to look up to know who he was talking about. Jessica Vane. Jessica was everything Madeline was not. Loud, vibrant, and dripping in diamonds. She was the daughter of a real estate mogul, and more importantly to Justin, she was the woman he was currently sleeping with. Jessica glided through the crowd in a scarlet dress that left very little to the imagination, flanked by photographers. "She commands the room," Justin muttered, unaware or perhaps not caring that he was praising his mistress to his wife. "She has presence. You could learn a thing or two." The gala dinner began. The clinking of silver against fine china filled the room. Madeline picked at her salmon, her stomach in knots. She could feel the eyes of the other wives on her. They knew. In their circle, affairs were common, but Justin was sloppy. He was cruel. Halfway through the main course, Jessica Vane walked over to their table. She wasn't seated there, but she carried herself with the confidence of someone who owned the building. She held a flute of vintage Krug champagne in one hand, her manicured nails tapping against the glass. "Justin, darling." Jessica beamed, ignoring Madeline entirely. "I just spoke to your VP. He tells me the merger is almost a done deal. Congratulations." Justin practically scrambled out of his chair. "Jessica, thank you. We're very optimistic." "You must be thrilled," Jessica said, her eyes finally sliding over to Madeline. Her gaze was like ice water. "And you brought Madeline, isn't it? How quaint. I didn't think you enjoyed these high-energy events. You always look so tired." "I'm fine, thank you," Madeline said, her voice steady but quiet. "That dress is interesting." Jessica smirked, tilting her head. "Is it polyester? It hangs so heavily." Justin laughed. He actually laughed. "I told her to buy something new, but she insists on these old rags. She has no taste for modern fashion." Madeline felt the heat rise in her cheeks. The table had gone quiet. People were watching. "Well," Jessica sighed, stepping closer. "Maybe I can take you shopping sometime. Help you look the part of a CEO's wife. Someone Justin can be proud to show off." It happened in slow motion. Jessica pivoted, feigning a stumble on her high heels. The flute of champagne in her hand tipped forward. The golden liquid splashed heavily across Madeline's chest, soaking the vintage blue silk and dripping onto the table. "Oh my God!" Jessica gasped, her hand flying to her mouth in a mock performance of shock. "I am so clumsy. Oh, Justin, I am so sorry." Madeline sat frozen, the cold liquid seeping into her skin. The vintage silk was ruined. "For God's sake," Justin snapped, not at Jessica, but at Madeline. "Look what you did. You moved your arm right into her." I didn't move," Madeline stammered, grabbing a napkin. "You're a mess," Justin hissed, his face red with misplaced anger. "You're making a scene. Jessica, are you all right? Did any get on your gown?" "I think I'm fine," Jessica said, pouting. "But, oh dear. My shoes. I think a drop landed on my Louboutins." She looked down at her pristine, red-soled shoe. There was a microscopic speck of liquid on the toe. The room was watching. This was the moment the wolves circled. Justin looked at Jessica's shoe, then at his wife. He made a calculation. Humiliating Madeline would show Jessica his loyalty. It would show the room he was the alpha, the one who controlled his household. "Madeline," Justin said, his voice dropping to a dangerous baritone. "Clean it up." Madeline looked at him confused. "I'm drying the table, Justin." "Not the table." Justin pointed to the floor, to Jessica's feet. "Her shoe. You caused this. You bumped her. Show some respect and clean it off." A hush fell over the nearby tables. The vice president of Sovereign Bank paused with his fork halfway to his mouth. "Justin," Madeline whispered, her voice trembling. "You can't be serious. People are watching." "I don't care who is watching," Justin said, his eyes hard and dead. "I am tired of your clumsiness, costing me social capital. Down, now." Jessica stood there, a cruel smile playing on her lips. Her foot extended slightly. Madeline looked around. No one moved to help her. They were all predators, and she was the wounded gazelle. She looked at Justin, the man she had loved, the man she had built up from nothing. And in that moment, something inside her, a steel cord that had been fraying for years, finally snapped. But it didn't snap loudly. It snapped into a yield hard line of resolve. Slowly, gracefully, Madeline lowered herself from the chair. She didn't kneel in submission. She moved with the fluid precision of a dancer. She took a linen napkin. She reached out. But she didn't touch Jessica's shoe. Instead, she dropped the napkin directly onto Jessica's foot, covering the red shoe entirely. "There," Madeline said, her voice projecting clearly, carrying a strange aristocratic accent that Justin had never heard before. "Now you won't have to look at the stain, or the shoe, which is a fake, by the way. The stitching on the heel is all wrong for a collection from 2024. She stood up. The silence was deafening. Jessica's face went purple. "Excuse me. You heard me," Madeline said, smoothing her damp dress. She turned to Justin. "And you. You wanted a spectacle. You have one. Enjoy your dinner, Justin. I believe this is my resignation." Madeline turned on her heel and walked out of the ballroom. She didn't run. She walked with a straight back. Her head held high, ignoring the whispers that erupted behind her like wildfire. Justin stood, stunned, his mouth agape. He had expected tears. He had expected begging. He had not expected dignity. "She's crazy," Justin muttered to the table, trying to recover. "Totally unstable. I apologize, everyone." But as he sat down, he noticed the vice president of Sovereign Bank was no longer looking at him with interest. He was looking at the exit where Madeline had vanished, a thoughtful, puzzled expression on his face. The penthouse was silent when Justin returned at 2:00 a.m. He was drunk, angry, and smelled of Jessica's perfume. He expected to find Madeline crying on the sofa, or perhaps locked in the guest bedroom. He was ready for a fight. He had his speech prepared. "You humiliated me. You were rude to Jessica. You are ungrateful." He threw his keys on the marble island of their kitchen. "Madeline," he shouted, "get out here." No answer. He stomped down the hallway to the master bedroom and kicked the door open. "I said." He stopped. The room was immaculate. The bed was made. The closet doors were open. He walked over. Her side of the closet was empty. Not just empty of clothes, it was stripped. No hangers, no shoes, no boxes. He checked the bathroom. Her toothbrush, her creams, her perfumes gone. On the bed, sitting squarely in the center of the duvet, was a single manila envelope and a small velvet box. Justin frowned, the alcohol buzzing in his head, making it hard to focus. He walked over and opened the velvet box first. It was her wedding ring, a simple, modest diamond he had bought her when he was broke. Beside it was the eternity band he had bought her last year, a shut-up gift after he missed their anniversary. He tossed the box aside and ripped open the envelope. It was a legal document. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Justin blinked. He flipped to the back page. It was already signed. Madeline Sophia Barrett. Attached to it was a handwritten note on plain stationery. "Justin, I have filed for an uncontested divorce. I want nothing. You can keep the penthouse, the cars, the accounts, and the company shares. I only took what I came with: my books, my grandmother's jewelry, and my dignity. Do not look for me. My lawyer, Mr. Sterling, no relation to your circle, will handle the finalization. You are free. Go be with Jessica. I hope she is worth the price you will eventually pay. Goodbye, M. Justin stared at the letter. A wave of relief washed over him, followed quickly by suspicion. She wanted nothing. Stupid woman! He laughed aloud, the sound echoing in the empty room. She could have taken me for millions. California is a community property state. She could have had half the company. He pulled out his phone and dialed Jessica immediately. Babe. Jessica answered, her voice groggy but eager. She's gone, Justin said, grinning. She left, and get this, she signed the papers. She waived her rights to the assets. She took nothing. You're joking, Jessica squealed. Oh my God, Justin, we won. We actually won. Come over, Justin said. Bring champagne. Real champagne, not the swill she served. As he waited for Jessica, Justin poured himself a scotch. He felt like the king of the world. He had shed the dead weight. He had the company, the money, and the mistress. Madeline was probably crying in a motel somewhere, regretting her decision to leave a multimillionaire. He didn't notice the second piece of paper that had fallen out of the envelope onto the floor. It was a photocopy of a bank transfer receipt from 7 years ago. The initial investment that started Barrett Logistics, $500,000. The sender wasn't Grandma's inheritance. The sender listed was the KS Trust, Zurich, Switzerland. Justin didn't see it. He was too busy toasting to his own reflection in the window. 3,000 miles away, a private Gulfstream G650 jet sat on the tarmac of a private airfield in New Jersey. The engines were whining, ready for takeoff. Madeline sat in a cream-colored leather seat, sipping a cup of hot tea. She was no longer wearing the stained blue dress. She was wearing a structured white suit that cost more than Justin's car. Her hair was pulled back in a severe, elegant chignon. Across from her sat a man in a dark suit. He was older, with silver hair and a scar running down his cheek. He looked like a man who had killed people or ordered them killed. "We have cleared the airspace, Your Highness," the man said, his voice gravelly and respectful. "Don't call me that, Lucas," Madeline said, looking out the window at the receding lights of New York. "Not yet. Your father is anxious to see you," Lucas said. "It has been 10 years, Madeline, when you ran away to marry that American. The Grand Duke was heartbroken. He has been waiting for this call." "I was naive, Lucas," Madeline said, her eyes hardening. "I thought I wanted a simple life. I thought love was enough. I thought if I hid who I was, I could be loved for myself, not for the crown. And I learned that some men are small," Madeline said. "They are small and they are cruel, and they hate what they cannot control. Justin didn't love me. He loved having a servant." Lucas nodded slowly. "And the husband, Barrett. He thinks he has won," Madeline said. "He thinks I am a poor, destitute librarian who walked away with nothing." "Does he know about the contract?" Lucas asked. "No." Madeline smiled. It was a cold smile, terrifyingly similar to her father's. "He thinks he owns Barrett Logistics. He forgets that the initial seed money came from the Zurich Trust. The terms of that loan were very specific. It was a callable loan convertible to equity at the discretion of the lender." Lucas's eyes widened slightly. "You own the controlling stake." "Technically, the trust owns it," Madeline corrected. "And as of this morning, I have resumed my position as the directress of the trust." "What are your orders, ma'am?" Madeline took a sip of tea. "Let him have his fun. Let him enjoy Jessica. Let him think he is the king of New York. In 3 weeks, the fiscal quarter ends. He needs the Series B funding to survive. He has a meeting scheduled with the shadowy European conglomerate, VD Holdings, to save his company." VD Holdings, Lucas chuckled. Valois Dumont. Exactly, Madeleine said. Prepare the jet for Geneva. I need a week at the spa, and then we go to work. I have a company to acquire. And Justin, Madeleine said, turning to the window as the jet began to taxi. Justin is going to learn that there is a very big difference between a CEO and a monarch. He wanted a trophy wife. I'm going to give him a war. The jet roared down the runway and lifted into the night sky, leaving the grime of New York far behind. Madeleine closed her eyes. The meek, apologizing housewife was dead. Princess Madeleine Sophie Valois Dumont of the Grand Duchy of Valois had returned. 3 weeks had passed since the gala. For Justin Barrett, they had been the best 3 weeks of his life. With Madeleine gone, the penthouse had transformed. The quiet, book-filled sanctuary was now a party hub. Jessica had moved in within 24 hours, replacing Madeleine's antique furniture with modern, sharp-edged velvet sofas and abstract art that looked like spilled paint. Justin felt reinvigorated. Jessica was loud, demanding, and expensive, everything he thought a man of his stature deserved. "Babe," Jessica called out from the walk-in closet, "I need your credit card, the black one. I'm booking the caterers for the investor dinner on Friday." Justin looked up from his iPad. He was sitting on the balcony reviewing the quarterly projections. They were tighter than he liked. The expansion into the Asian market had drained their cash reserves. He needed this meeting with VD Holdings to go perfectly. "Just use the corporate card," Justin shouted back. "Put it under client relations." "You're the best," Jessica squealed. Justin frowned at the screen. VD Holdings, they were a ghost. No website, just a holding page. No LinkedIn profiles for their executives. Just a prestigious law firm in Zurich handling the correspondence. They had expressed interest in a $50 million injection into Barrett Logistics, pending a site visit and a formal dinner with the CEO. Justin had tried to dig up dirt on them. All he found were rumors. They were old European money, the kind of money that didn't appear on Forbes lists because it was hidden in mountains and vaults. "If I land this," Justin muttered to himself, "I can buy out the remaining board members. I'll answer to no one." His phone buzzed. It was his lawyer, Gary. "Hey, Gary, tell me the divorce is finalized." "It's weirdly fast, Justin," Gary said, sounding perplexed. "Her lawyer, this guy Sterling. He pushed everything through, no contest. Judge signed off this morning. You are a single man." "But Justin, what?" "I tried to look up Sterling. The guy doesn't exist in the New York Bar Association. He's listed as Special Counsel for International Affairs, and the address for her mail, forwarding, it's an Embassy Row zip code. Who cares?" Justin laughed. "She probably moved in with some diplomat relative to act as a nanny. She's gone, Gary. The leech is detached." "If you say so," Gary said. "But usually when a wife walks away from $50 million, there's a catch." "The catch is she's an idiot," Justin said. "See you at the office." Justin hung up and walked into the bedroom. Jessica was posing in the mirror wearing a diamond choker he had bought yesterday. "Friday night," Justin said, wrapping his arms around her waist. "The representatives from VD Holdings are coming here, to the penthouse. They wanted an intimate setting to judge my character." "Don't worry," Jessica smirked. "I'll be the perfect hostess. I'll show them what a real power couple looks like. Not like that mouse you used to be married to." "Don't mention her," Justin said, kissing her neck. "She's history." Friday night. The penthouse was staged to perfection. A private chef was in the kitchen preparing a 6-course meal. The wine, a Chateau Margaux, was breathing. Justin wore a new tuxedo navy blue with black lapels. Jessica wore a shimmering gold gown that clung to every curve, her makeup dramatic and sharp. "They're late," Justin said, checking his Rolex. It was 7:15 p.m. The meeting was set for 7:00. "European time," Jessica scoffed, sipping a martini. "They probably want to make an entrance." The intercom buzzed. "Mr. Barrett," the doorman's voice crackled. "Your guests have arrived. 3 vehicles." "3," Justin frowned. "Send them up." They have security, sir. They are coming up now." Justin straightened his tie. "Okay, Jessica. Smile. Be charming. Don't mention your ex-husband." The elevator doors at the end of the private foyer slid open. Justin stepped forward, hand extended, a winning smile on his face. "Welcome to—" He froze. 2 men in earpieces stepped out first, scanning the room with professional paranoia. They were huge. They stepped aside. A man walked out. He was tall, in his 60s, with a silver beard and a posture that made him look 7 feet tall. He wore a suit that probably cost more than the apartment. He held a cane topped with a silver eagle. "Mr. Barrett," the man said. His voice was deep, accented with a blend of French and German. "I am Henri, personal counsel to the chairman." "A pleasure," Justin said, his hand wavering slightly. "Is the chairman joining us?" "The chairman is here," Henri said. He stepped aside. A woman stepped out of the elevator. She was wearing a black tailored suit, sharp and severe, with a diamond brooch on the lapel in the shape of a crest. She wore dark sunglasses, which she slowly removed. Justin felt the blood drain from his face. His knees buckled. Jessica dropped her martini glass. It shattered on the floor, but no one looked. The woman handed her sunglasses to one of the bodyguards. She looked at Justin with eyes that were familiar, yet completely alien. They were cold, commanding, and amused. "Hello, Justin," the woman said. "Madeline," Justin wheezed. What are you doing here? The security." She ignored him. She walked past him, her heels clicking on the marble floor, the same floor she had left 3 weeks ago. She walked to the center of the room and looked around at the new furniture. "Tacky," she said, "but expected." "Get out!" Jessica shrieked, finding her voice. "You can't just barge in here. We are expecting billionaires. Get out, you psycho." Madeline turned to Jessica. She didn't get angry. She didn't shout. She just looked at Jessica like she was a smudge on a window. "Henri," Madeline said calmly. "Who is this person screaming in my property?" "Your property," Justin shouted, finding his anger. "I own this. You signed the papers. You got nothing. Now get out before I call the police." Henri stepped forward, opening a leather portfolio. "Actually, Mr. Barrett, you are mistaken. The penthouse is owned by the corporation Barrett Logistics. Is that correct?" "Yes, so I own it," Justin spat. "And," Henri continued, "Barrett Logistics was founded with a Tier 1 convertible loan from the KS Trust. Due to the recent volatility in your Asian markets, which we have been monitoring, the trust has exercised its right to convert the debt into equity." Henri handed a paper to Justin. "Effective 9:00 a.m. this morning, VD Holdings, the parent company of the KS Trust, holds 51% of Barrett Logistics. This was ratified by your board in an emergency session an hour ago." Justin stared at the paper. The numbers blurred. 51%. Controlling interest. I don't understand," Justin stammered. Who runs VD Holdings?" Henri gestured to Madeline. "May I introduce Her Serene Highness Princess Madeline Sophie of Valois-Dumont, chairwoman of VD Holdings, and your new boss." Madeline smiled. Please sit down, Justin. We have a performance review to get through. The silence in the penthouse was heavy enough to crush a man. Justin sat slumped on his velvet sofa, the one Jessica had bought 3 days ago, staring at the woman he had treated like a piece of furniture for 7 years. Madeline didn't look like a wife anymore. She sat opposite him, legs crossed, sipping a glass of water she had poured for herself. She looked like a CEO. No, she looked like something more dangerous. She looked like consequence. This is a joke, Jessica snapped, her voice shrill but trembling. She was standing behind the sofa, clutching her phone as if it were a weapon. You can't just walk in here and claim you own the company. Justin built Barrett Logistics. He is the founder. He is the manager, Henry corrected from the corner. The large man hadn't moved, but his presence filled the room. The KS Trust provided the capital. The contract Justin signed, which I assume he didn't read thoroughly in his eagerness to play tycoon, stipulated that upon conversion of debt to equity, the trust appoints the chairperson. Madeline is that chairperson. Justin finally looked up. His eyes were bloodshot. Why? He rasped. Why wait 7 years? Why play the role of the mouse? You scrubbed floors, Madeline. You cooked my dinner. You let me speak to you like a dog. Why? Madeline set the glass down. The sound was a sharp clink in the quiet room. Because I wanted to know if you were a good man. Justin, she said softly, I was born into a world where everyone wants something from me. My title, my influence, my father's money. I wanted to see if a man could love me, Madeline the nobody, the librarian. She leaned forward, her eyes darkening. I gave you every chance. When you screamed at me for burning the toast, I forgave you. When you forgot my birthday, 3 years in a row, I forgave you. When you started coming home smelling of Jessica's perfume. She glanced at Jessica, who flinched. I tried to forgive you. I thought he is stressed. He is building a future for us. But at the gala, when you made me wipe her shoe, Madeline shook her head slowly. You didn't just hurt me, Justin. You showed me you have no honor. And a man without honor cannot be allowed to run a billion-dollar company. You can't do this. Justin stood up, his fists clenching. I'll sue. I'll fight this. This is a hostile takeover. I have lawyers. I have the board. The board. Madeline laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. Justin, the board cares about profit. VD Holdings just offered to triple their annual dividends. They voted you out as CEO 20 minutes ago. You are currently trespassing. Justin's phone buzzed. It was an email notification. Subject notice of termination of employment. Barrett Logistics. He dropped the phone. It clattered on the floor. Get out, Madeline said. She didn't shout. She just pointed to the door. Take your mistress. Take your clothes. Leave the keys. This is my house, Justin roared, lunging forward. Before he could take 2 steps, Henri was there. The older man moved with terrifying speed. He caught Justin by the throat, not enough to choke, but enough to freeze him. Sir, Henri whispered, his voice like grinding stones. Do not make me demonstrate the difference between a bodyguard and a soldier. The princess asked you to leave. Justin gasped for air, terrified. He looked at Jessica. Pack a bag, he wheezed. What? Jessica looked around, frantic. Justin, you can't just leave. What about the gala? What about my reputation? He has no reputation, Madeline cut in. And neither do you, Jessica. Now leave, before I have security remove you. It took them 20 minutes. Justin threw clothes into a suitcase, while Jessica cried in the bathroom, shoving her cosmetics into a Louis Vuitton duffel. They walked out of the penthouse, past the stone-faced bodyguards and into the elevator. When the doors closed, Justin Barrett, the titan of industry, was homeless. Justin was not a man who gave up easily. Rage is a powerful fuel, and Justin was burning with it. He and Jessica checked into the St. Regis. It was expensive, but Justin needed to maintain appearances. He spent the next morning on the phone, rallying his legal team. "We sue for fraud," Justin screamed at his lawyer, Gary. "She lied about her identity. That has to void the prenup or the contract or something. She trapped me." "Justin, listen to me," Gary said, his voice tired. "I looked into VD Holdings. This isn't just a company. It's the sovereign wealth fund of the Grand Duchy of Valois. You are trying to sue a country. Do you have any idea the kind of diplomatic immunity they have?" "I don't care." Justin threw a coffee cup against the wall. "She is in New York. She is subject to New York laws." "We can try," Gary said hesitantly. "But it will cost a fortune. My retainer needs to be replenished. You're at zero." "I'll wire it," Justin said. He hung up and logged into his bank account. Sovereign Bank, the same bank whose VP he was trying to impress at the gala. He typed in his password. Access denied. He tried again. Account frozen. Please contact branch. Justin felt a cold sweat prickle his neck. He tried his credit cards. He logged into his stock portfolio. Frozen. 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 "Jessica!" he yelled. Jessica walked out of the bathroom in a bathrobe, her eyes puffy. "What now?" "Check your cards. I need to pay the lawyer." "My cards," Jessica scoffed. "My cards are maxed out, Justin. I spent everything on the gala preparations. You said you'd pay it off." "My accounts are locked," Justin said, his voice trembling. At that moment, the hotel room phone rang. Justin picked it up. "Mr. Barrett." It was the hotel manager. "I'm afraid there is a problem with the credit card on file. It's been declined." "It's a mistake," Justin lied. "I'll sort it out." "I'm afraid we need a valid form of payment immediately, sir, or we will have to ask you to vacate. The suite is $6,000 a night." Justin slammed the phone down. He sat on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. She was starving him out. "Who is she really?" Jessica asked, her voice quiet. "Justin, you said she was a nobody. Nobodies don't freeze bank accounts." She said, "Valois," Justin muttered. He grabbed his laptop and frantically typed into Google, "Valois Dumont royal family." The search results flooded the screen. Grand Duchy of Valois Dumont, a small but immensely wealthy European microstate bordering France and Switzerland, known for banking, pharmaceuticals, and rare earth minerals. Current ruler, Grand Duke Stephen IV. Heir, apparent Princess Madeleine. So for me. Disappeared from public life, 2014. Justin clicked on the images. There she was. A younger Madeleine, wearing a diamond tiara, standing on a balcony next to a stern-looking man with a grey beard. She looked regal, untouchable. "Oh my God," Jessica whispered, looking over his shoulder. "She's a literal princess. You made a princess clean your toilet." "Shut up," Justin snapped. "She ran away. That means she's estranged. Daddy probably hates her. If I can get to the father, maybe I can make a deal. He's a traditionalist, right? He won't want a scandal." Justin's mind raced. He was a manipulator. He knew how to spin a story. "I'm going to go to the press," Justin said, a manic grin forming. "I'll tell them she's unstable, that she used me, that she's a fraud who married me for a green card or something. I'll humiliate the royal family. They'll pay me to shut up. It was a desperate, stupid plan. But it was all he had. 2 days later, Justin got his wish, but not in the way he expected. Every news outlet in New York received a press release. But it wasn't from Justin. It was from the consulate of Valois-Dumont. His Royal Highness Grand Duke Stefan IV to host a charity gala at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Special announcement regarding the future of Barrett Logistics and VD humanitarian efforts. The city went wild. A European monarch in New York. It was the event of the decade. Justin wasn't invited, obviously, but Justin knew the Met. He knew the security staff because Barrett Logistics had sponsored their cargo transport for the last exhibit. "We're going," Justin told Jessica. They were now staying in a cheap motel in Queens, having been kicked out of the St. Regis. Justin was wearing his one remaining tuxedo, which was starting to wrinkle. "Justin, this is suicide," Jessica said. She looked tired. The glamour was fading. Without the expensive clothes and the makeup artists, she looked ordinary. "Let's just leave. Let's move to Ohio. My aunt has a house." "I am not moving to Ohio," Justin screamed. "I am going to look that old man in the eye and demand my company back. He's a businessman. He'll respect boldness." They snuck in through the loading dock. Justin bribed a guard he knew with his watch, a Patek Philippe he had managed to hide in his pocket. It was his last asset. They made it to the edge of the Temple of Dendur Hall. The room was transformed. Massive banners of the Valois crest hung from the ceiling. The guest list was a who's who of global power, the mayor-senators, billionaires, celebrities. And there on a raised dais sat Madeleine. She was unrecognizable. She wore a gown of silver and white, embroidered with thousands of pearls. On her head sat a tiara that looked heavy with history. She sat with a posture that commanded absolute silence. Justin felt a pang of loss so sharp it almost brought him to his knees. That was his wife, the woman he had yelled at for buying the wrong brand of coffee. The crowd hushed as a trumpet sounded. "Ladies and gentlemen," a voice boomed. "His Royal Highness, Grand Duke Stefan." The Grand Duke walked onto the stage. He was the man Justin had seen in the photos, but in person, he was terrifying. He was nearly 70, but he moved with the vigor of a general. He wore a sash of green and gold and a chest full of medals. He walked to the podium. He didn't smile. "Friends," the Grand Duke began, his voice booming without a microphone. "I come to your city to correct a mistake. For 10 years, my daughter has lived among you. She chose to live simply, to learn the value of labor, to understand the hearts of the common people." He paused, scanning the crowd. His eyes seemed to laser in on the dark corner where Justin was hiding. "She gave her heart to a man." The Duke continued, his voice dropping to a growl. "She gave him her trust. She gave him the funds to build an empire. And how did he repay her?" The room was silent. "He treated her with contempt," the Duke roared. "He belittled her. He betrayed her with a woman of low character." Justin shrank back, but the crowd was looking around, whispering. "Justin Barrett," the Duke shouted. "I know you are here. My security saw you enter 10 minutes ago. We let you in because I want you to see this." Spotlights swung. Suddenly, Justin and Jessica were blinded by beams of white light. They were trapped against the sandstone wall of the temple. "Show yourself," the Duke commanded. Justin, trembling, stepped forward. He tried to muster his arrogance. I demand to be heard. She deceived me. She lied about who she was." The Duke laughed. "She omitted a title. You omitted your humanity." The Duke turned to Madeline. "My daughter, step forward." Madeline rose. She walked to the microphone. She looked at Justin, her face devoid of emotion. "Justin," she said, her voice amplified through the massive hall. "You wanted to be a big man. You wanted to be powerful. So I will give you a display of power." She snapped her fingers. On the massive screens behind the stage, a document appeared. "This is the deed to the Barrett Logistics headquarters," Madeline said. "Transferred to the Valois Humanitarian Fund. It will be turned into a shelter for victims of domestic emotional abuse." Another snap. "This is your stock portfolio," she said. "Liquidated. The proceeds, $12 million, have been donated to the cleaning staff of the Pierre Hotel, whom you frequently verbally abused." The crowd gasped, then applauded. "And finally," Madeline said, looking at Jessica. "Jessica Vane." Jessica sobbed, hiding her face. "I do not blame you entirely," Madeline said coolly. "You are a symptom of his ego, but you are not without fault. The social circles you prize so much. You are blacklisted. From New York to London to Paris. No gala will host you. No fashion house will dress you. You wanted attention. Now you have it. You are the most famous outcast in the world." The Duke stepped forward again, placing a hand on Madeline's shoulder. "Mr. Barrett," the Duke said, "you have 1 hour to leave New York. If you are found within the city limits after midnight, you will be arrested for corporate embezzlement. We have the files. We have the proof of the tax evasion you committed in 2021. My daughter protected you then. She protects you no longer." "Embezzlement?" Justin stammered. We found the offshore accounts, Justin," Madeline said. "The ones you hid from me. The ones you were going to use to run away with Jessica." Jessica's head snapped up. "What? You were going to run away?" Justin went pale. He had indeed been siphoning money, planning an escape strategy if the business failed. He didn't think anyone knew. "Take him away." The Duke waved his hand. Security guards, not the hotel staff, but the royal guard, descended on Justin. They didn't drag him. They escorted him with a firm, humiliating grip. As he was marched out, Justin looked back. He saw Madeline standing under the golden lights, the crown glittering on her head. She wasn't looking at him. She was smiling at her father. She was free. 6 months later. The passage of time is relative. In the penthouse overlooking Central Park, 6 months used to fly by in a blur of galas, board meetings, and quarterly reviews. But here, in a roadside diner on the outskirts of Hoboken, New Jersey, 6 months felt like a geological era. The air inside Sal's 24-hour eats didn't smell like expensive perfume or chilled champagne. It smelled of scorched bacon grease, stale coffee, and floor cleaner. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed with a headache-inducing hum that never ceased casting a sickly yellow pallor over everything, including Justin Barrett. Justin stood behind the laminate counter, wiping away a sticky ring of syrup with a grey, fraying rag. He was no longer the sleek predator in a Brioni tuxedo. He was wearing a polyester uniform that was a size too large, stained with ketchup and grease. His name tag, crookedly pinned to his chest, read, "R.T." "Hey, R.T. "Wake up," Sal the manager bellowed from the grill, scraping a spatula against the metal with a screech. Table 4 has been waiting for a refill for 2 minutes. Move your ass. Coming soon. Justin muttered, his voice raspy. He grabbed the pot of lukewarm coffee, his knuckles aching. His hands, once manicured and soft, were now chapped and red from cheap soap and hard water. He shuffled over to table 4, a vinyl booth where a middle-aged couple sat picking at their eggs. They were ignoring him, engrossed in the Sunday edition of the New York Times. As Justin reached out to pour the coffee, his eyes snagged on the paper. The headline wasn't just text, it was a physical blow to his gut. Princess Madeleine ascends to Grand Duchess, announces engagement to Nobel Prize-winning economist. Justin froze. The steam from the coffee pot curled around his wrist, but he didn't feel the heat. He only saw the photograph. It was Madeleine. But not the Madeleine who used to shuffle around his apartment in oversized sweaters. This woman was radiant. She stood on a balcony in Geneva, draped in a sash of royal blue, waving to a crowd that looked like an ocean of people. Beside her stood a man, tall, kind-eyed, and radiating a quiet intellectual strength that Justin had never possessed. She looked powerful. More importantly, she looked free. "She looks happy, doesn't she?" The woman in the booth murmured to her husband, tapping a fingernail on Madeleine's face. "I read the article. Apparently her ex-husband was a total monster. Controlled her, belittled her. He lost everything in the divorce." "Serves him right," the husband grunted, chewing his toast. "Guy sounds like a loser. Probably rotting in a gutter somewhere." A wave of dizziness hit Justin. The room tilted. His hand spasmed. The pot tipped too far. Hot, dark liquid splashed aggressively over the rim of the mug, flooding the saucer, and cascading onto the table, soaking the edge of the man's newspaper. "Hey, watch it!" the man roared, jumping back and knocking his fork to the floor. "You clumsy idiot! Look what you did! You almost scalded me. I'm sorry," Justin stammered. The old arrogance completely evaporated, replaced by a terrified subservience. "I slipped. I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix my paper," the man sneered. He pointed a thick finger at the puddle spreading across the table, then down to the splashes on the linoleum floor. "Clean it up." Justin stopped breathing. The words echoed in his skull, bouncing off the walls of his memory. "Clean it up." He looked at the man. He looked at the dirty floor. It was exactly what he had done to her. It was the exact moment he had sealed his fate at the Voorhees gala. The universe wasn't just punishing him. It was mocking him. Slowly, painfully, Justin lowered himself. His knees cracked as they hit the hard tiles. He took his grey rag and began to wipe the floor at the man's feet. He was right back where he had put Madeleine. On his knees, wiping up a mess he hadn't meant to make while the world looked down on him. The bell above the diner door jingled, signaling a new customer. Justin finished wiping the floor and hauled himself up, keeping his head down to hide the shame burning in his cheeks. He walked back to the counter to rinse the rag. "Water. Just tap. No ice." The voice was familiar, but it lacked the musical lilt it used to have. It sounded flat. Dead. Justin looked up. Jessica Vane sat on a spinning stool. She looked 10 years older. Her hair, once a glossy, expensive blonde mane, was showing dark roots and was pulled back in a messy, careless ponytail. She wore a coat that was fraying at the seams, and her face was scrubbed clean of makeup, revealing dark circles under her eyes. "Jessica," Justin whispered. She didn't look at him. She stared straight ahead at the menu board. "Hello, Justin." Justin felt a sudden, desperate spark of hope. "You came back," he said, leaning over the counter, lowering his voice. I get off in 10 minutes. We could go somewhere. I know a place down the street. It's cheap, but I didn't come back for you, Justin," Jessica said, finally turning to look at him. Her eyes were empty. There was no anger, no passion, just a hollow exhaustion. "I'm passing through. My bus has a layover at the depot across the street. I'm moving back to Ohio. My aunt said I can work at her flower shop if I keep my head down." "Ohio." Justin shook his head. "But we can fix this. We can start over. We have each other." Jessica let out a short, dry laugh. She looked at his stained apron. She looked at the grease under his fingernails. Then she looked at the newspaper on table 4, where Madeline's face was still visible. "We have nothing, Justin," she said softly. "We never had anything. It was all just glitter. And now the lights are off." She stood up, leaving the water untouched. She didn't say goodbye. She simply turned and walked out into the cold, grey rain of New Jersey. Justin watched her go until she was just a blur in the downpour. He felt a hollowness in his chest, a void where his ambition used to be. "Artie!" Sal's voice boomed from the back, shattering the silence. "The toilets in the men's room are backed up again. Get the mop." Justin Barrett. The man who had almost touched the sun looked at the mop bucket in the corner. He looked at the dirty water. "Yes, sir," he whispered. He picked up the bucket and walked toward the bathroom, the heavy door swinging shut behind him, closing off the rest of the world. And that, my friends, is the tragic, satisfying fall of Justin Barrett. He had a queen in his corner, but he treated her like a peasant, only to end up serving coffee to the very people he used to look down on. It's a brutal lesson in humility. Never mistake someone's silence for weakness, and never ever bite the hand that literally feeds your empire. Madeline didn't just leave him. She dismantled him piece by piece, proving that true power doesn't need to shout to be heard. If you enjoyed this story of royal revenge and instant karma smash, that like button right now. It really helps the channel grow. What would you have done if you were Madeline? Would you have forgiven him, or did Justin get exactly what he deserved? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you never miss another story of betrayal and justice. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.